So I'm here with.
Suela Kendall. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I don't know how many people are viewing this.
So whereabouts are you from originally?
I'm from Niagara Falls, which is, it's an okay city, I guess. Kind of like a bizarre little hub. It's only if you've grown up there, you really get how it can be a bit of a strange place.
Did you grow up there?
Yeah, I lived there for 20 years.
So how was it? How was your childhood there?
My childhood there was, I would say, I feel like I had like kind of a dysfunctional, I was raised like with a kind of dysfunctional viewpoint of the world. I was adopted from a mother who was like a sex worker and a drug user who unfortunately passed away during pregnancy, and so I was adopted. It was me, my mom, and my dad. And early childhood was pretty difficult. It was like, I feel like my mom, because she didn't have access to fancy like hippie parenting stuff, right? Like she had like, you know, what she knew, and she did her best, because there's two different types of abusive parents, you know, and I feel like there's ones that are doing their best, and then there's ones who are out to hurt. And I don't want to throw my mom under the bus, but I feel like she would utilize a lot of like harsh psychological tactics against me.
Like what?
Well, like there was like, you know, like physical violence, and then there was also like just shit like, you know, she used to hold me over the staircase like this and threaten to toss me down, and like she would always tell me, like, to the point where I feel like it's affected me to my adult life, but always, she would always tell me, I never lie. But at the same time, I feel like it was an okay time. It's like, I had a lot of shit that not everyone had. Like, it's not like I'm trying to make myself out to be the most. Because that's kind of like how we grew up, was this just me, my mom, and my dad. Like, we just worked with what we had, worked with what we got. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't 100%, but we dealt with it, right? But I spent a lot of lonely times just sort of watching TV. I feel like I lacked a parental presence to provide context of the world. But they did a good job, you know. It's not like I was neglected or anything. I think that like, honestly, that is something that I would have needed, is just more context to certain things. Because I was as a child that would constantly ask why. Just because I was like wanting to figure out like the actual answer to things. And my only regret is that I didn't pursue a work type, you know, path.
When did you come to British Columbia?
I came to British Columbia in 2015. I was a wreck. I came off the plane a wreck, and I've kind of just been trying to make it work ever since.
Why were you a wreck?
I was self-medicating with Ativan and alcohol and social media, and I just didn't treat me. And I feel like, so when I moved here, or not here, but when I moved to Victoria, I became homeless pretty quickly, and I think that I just put in a position where it's like, I don't know, I'm happy I like stuck it through, right? Just because I remember it being like so cinematic, like I'm just wandering around, right? Trying to find this shelter, and I show up, and this kid is standing there, and just I'll never forget. He's like, "Dude, you dressed like a fucking faggot," and I was just like, "Okay." But I kind of just made things work day by day. I felt like it was easier to be homeless in Victoria than in Vancouver. Like, it was easier to just walk around and stuff.
Can you describe what it's like in Victoria?
Victoria's cool. It's very. I feel like it gets old, like quickly. It's very like small scene, but there's like unique little aspects of it. Like, I'll never forget like being homeless in the summer of 2017 at like 6 a.m. like getting blackberry bushes through chain link fences, just trying to like, you know. I felt like I was more independent, and I was more self-sufficient. When I moved to Vancouver, it was kind of just on like but like when I moved to Vancouver, I kind of was just crashing at a friend's place. People were offering housing, so I hopped on a ferry and I went there. And then something that I've learned is like it's really, really hard to like transition from homelessness to housing if you don't know any of the people. It's hard to curb that erratic behavior.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because I think I guess I should correct myself, say I'm only speaking on my own behalf. But for me, I think it was like hard to like just feel like the place was like, you know, safe or whatever, even though it's not like there were any threats or whatever.
Why do you think it's unsafe here?
I don't think it's unsafe here. I think there's a lot of patience here, but if you start slipping down, like I feel like I'm in that place of like detachment, and you know, I don't think people like to be cruel here. I don't think people like to cause harm here. I think people but I think it gets to the point where people just want their shit left alone, and that's like something I've been feeling hard pretty intensely lately. Is just I know I posture.
Do you remember when you first started doing drugs?
Do I remember when I first started doing drugs? Yeah. I was walking. I had stolen a pack of reserve cigarettes, or like native smokes, that's what they called them back home. And I brought them over because they were like, "Can you get us cigarettes?" I'm like, "Yeah," because my family always had like that. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to smoke weed?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then they just sat down in like the middle of the sidewalk, and I'm like, "Right here?" And it's like, "Yeah, what's wrong with right here?" And it didn't hit me too hard. The second time I smoked weed, I was fucked though. It was out of like a grav bomb. Different times. Like, there used to be an innocence to it. There used to be an experimentation to it.
What did that progress into?
What did it progress into? I think it progressed into shamelessly trying to like claw every last bit of drugs, you know, that I can get. Just full blown, just. And I hate to admit that, but it's kind of what meth will do, you know? Like, and they don't show that in the warning videos. Like, you can wash your face and shower every day and not end up covered in scabs and shit. You know, and you don't have, you might, but it'll send you into a place of selfishness. It'll send you in a place where you're contradicting yourself and talking shit and just trying to get more and more and more and more. And I feel that if anyone is like experimenting with it, I'd recommend they stop. Just because it's one of those, it's something that you can do and it might not hook you right away, but once you start becoming obsessed with it, it depends on what your work ethic's like, I guess.
Can you describe what it's like
What's
doing meth?
not anymore, I guess, because it feels so irregular and like, there used to be a euphoria to it. There used to be like a energy to it. There used to be a fun to it. I think right now all it does is just make me want more and more until I'm like just overwhelmingly just so hyperactive and loud that it just does nothing but terrorize the people around me, and that's not something that I want to see continue, you know? I think that there's better options for stimulants, you know, like, or I don't really know, because I've never really done, I never really bothered much with like cocaine or whatever, but the other thing with meth, especially in the summertime, is that you will give yourself literal brain damage if you let your brain go above 37 degrees. It's really important to like keep yourself cool, or you will mess your brain up. Like, I just wouldn't recommend it to anyone, and I regret. There's certain people where I'd ask first, and then they'd be like, "Yeah, I'd do it," but I regret not being more like, you know, assertive and just say like, "Nah, man, you don't want this," because it just does shit to you that'll make you fucking.
Do you want to get off of meth?
Do I want to get off of meth? I think right now I'm more concerned. I don't know if the answer is yes or no. I'm more concerned with wanting to stop stealing and stop lying to my friends. And I think that getting off meth would be great for me, but then it's like you still have to mend what you've done to other people, and that's something that I think that's something that is the hardest part about recovery. So you can recover yourself, but you still gotta remember you fucked over a lot of people.
Are you homeless right now?
I'm not homeless. I'm housed. I'd rather not speak about where I'm living. But
what are some of the craziest things you've seen in East Vancouver?
what are some of the craziest things I've seen in East Vancouver? I remember a show at Black Lab where this dude was making like noise and industrial by like eating broken glass. I like performance art like that. And just like, I feel like I'm around a lot of chaos, but not so much like crazy. I think that honestly, craziest thing I've ever seen. I can't think of much that would just like follow crazy. Other than like, yeah.
And what do you think can be done to help the homelessness here?
What do I think could be done to help homelessness here? I think there needs to be more shelters that recognize the benefit of long-term rest. Because if you give people longer spaces to like just sleep, you'll have less aggravated individuals. Just 'cause, and then I also think that like I think just also like I'm not sure. I'm thinking on that one. I think something that would help too is like maybe try to like give them like, because I know that if when I was homeless initially, if someone was able to like help me contextualize like what a home is, why I would want to treat it nice, why I would like rather than just have finding a home be the end all be all, I think it would benefit me long term. You know, and also to just remember that not everyone is people who are having like loud or like frightening outbursts 9 times out of 10 they don't want to be like that, and just have space for people to be a little, you know, but also try to balance that out and remember that you can't just let that behavior go unchecked, you know. You gotta have a balance, because it's like, that's why I always say sorry when I'm like panicking and having like an outburst, because even though it's hard for me, it's hard for people around me too. And that's the type of like mentality I try to keep. So,
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
thank you.